The price of arrogance. She didn't own a seat. She owned the airline. The battle at 40,000 feet. She thought she had it all. The man, the money, the first-class ticket to paradise. But when Sasha Cross stepped onto the gleaming private jet, she found an unexpected obstacle. Her lover's quiet wife. What began as a high-altitude power play turned into the most devastating humiliation of her life. She was about to learn that the woman she dismissed as a nobody didn't just have a seat on the plane. She owned the entire airline. This is the story of how a mistress's arrogance led to her final downfall. Have you ever underestimated someone so deeply that your world crumbled? Share your story in the comments. The invitation to the gallows. The air in the private lounge at London Heathrow Airport hummed with a different kind of silence. It was the muting of sound by deep pile carpets, velvet upholstery, and the unspoken understanding that everyone present was wealthy enough not to speak above a polite murmur. Sasha Cross, however, had never been good with polite murmurs. She checked her reflection in the gilded mirror, adjusting the strap of her crimson Prada dress. Her blonde hair, the product of a 6-hour salon visit, cascaded over her shoulders. She was, in a word, immaculate, a predator wrapped in luxury. Her phone vibrated. A message from Victor. "Just landed. Heading over. You better be ready." A slow, satisfied smile spread across her face. Ready. She'd been ready for this her whole life. Victor Thorne was her ticket, not just to this lounge or the Gulfstream GU700 waiting outside, but to everything. He was a finance titan, a shark in a Zegna suit, and he was, for all intents and purposes, hers. She grabbed her Chanel bag and walked toward the discreet door leading to the tarmac. A lounge attendant, all smiles and deference, opened the door for her. "Mr. Thorne's flight is this way, Ms. Cross." Sasha inhaled. It smelled of kerosene and money. The plane was magnificent, a gleaming white spear with a dark blue stripe, and the stylized logo of Apex Air Charter on the tail. This was Victor's preferred airline, the most exclusive charter service in the world. As she neared the steps, she saw the flight coordinator at the door, Charlotte, a woman with a perfectly neat bun and a smile that never reached her eyes. But Charlotte wasn't looking at her. She was looking past her, at someone who had just emerged from the lounge. Sasha turned, and her perfect day soured. It was her, Ilara Hayes, the wife. Sasha's lip curled into a micro-sneer that she quickly hid. She had only seen pictures of Ilara, and they were universally unflattering. The reality was somehow worse. Where Sasha was a blaze of crimson and gold, Ilara was a study in beige. She wore a simple oatmeal cashmere jacket, functional gray trousers, and sensible-looking loafers. Her dark hair was pulled into a simple, severe bun, and her face was clean of makeup. She looked less like a billionaire's wife and more like his moderately paid accountant. Ilara carried her own small rolling suitcase, struggling slightly as the wheel caught on the tarmac. "He brought her." Sasha's mind reeled. "He's bringing his little disheveled wife on our trip." This was supposed to be their anniversary, the anniversary of the day they met, while Ilara was probably at some pathetic charity luncheon. Rage, hot and sharp, flared in Sasha's chest. But then a new, delicious thought replaced it. This wasn't a problem. This was an opportunity, a chance to establish, once and for all, who the real woman in Victor's life was. Sasha slid forward, her heels clicking determinedly. She stopped directly in front of Ilara, forcing the older woman to halt. "Ilara, right?" Sasha said, her voice dripping fake sweetness. She didn't offer a hand. Ilara looked up, her eyes, a surprisingly clear, steady blue, meeting Sasha's. "Yes, and you are Sasha." It wasn't a question. That's right, Sasha smiled, gesturing to examine her up and down. Oh dear, did Victor forget to tell you where you were going? We're heading to St. Bart's. It's dreadfully hot. That jacket might be a bit much. Ilara's expression didn't flicker. I'll manage. I'm just so surprised to see you, Sasha continued, loud enough for the flight coordinator to hear. I thought you were more, I don't know, the stay-at-home and knit type. But good for you, getting out. It's so important for people in your position to see the world. She was baiting her, insulting her, calling her a charity case. The wife was just baggage Victor was forced to drag along, and Sasha was the main event. That's kind of you to be so concerned about my comfort, Ilara replied, her voice impossibly, frustratingly calm. She made a move to step around Sasha. Sasha blocked her way again, leaning in close, dropping her voice to a venomous whisper. Let's get one thing clear, Beiji. You might have the ring for now, but I have the man. You are a guest on my trip. Try to remember that. Sit in the back, read your little book, and stay out of the way. Maybe Victor will toss you a souvenir. Sasha felt a chill of victory. She had drawn the battle lines. She watched Ilara's face, expecting the tears, the anger, the satisfying break in her composure. Ilara simply held her gaze for one long, silent moment. The sound of the jet's auxiliary power unit filled the gap. Are you quite finished? Ilara asked, as if inquiring about the time. Before Sasha could retort, a loud voice boomed across the tarmac. There you are. Victor Thorne appeared, all teeth and testosterone, his satellite phone already glued to his ear. No. Tell Smith that if he doesn't close by Friday, the whole deal is dead. I don't care. Dead. He snapped the phone shut and tucked it into his pocket, his smile instantly returning as he looked at Sasha. You look like £1,000,000, darling, he said, kissing her directly on the lips, a deliberately theatrical gesture for Ilara's benefit. Then he turned to his wife. The smile vanished. Ilara. It was a cold, flat acknowledgement. You're here. Fine. Get on the plane. Don't cause a scene. Hello, Victor, Ilara said, her voice still impossibly neutral. Come on, Sasha, Victor said, throwing an arm around her waist and steering her toward the stairs, leaving Ilara alone on the tarmac. Sasha glanced over her shoulder, giving Ilara a triumphant, pitying smile. Ilara, she noted, hadn't moved. She just watched them, her face unreadable. 2. The subtle shift inside the cabin, the scent of fresh roses and rich leather hit Sasha. Charlotte, she instructed the flight coordinator. I'll take a glass of the good champagne before we push back, and make sure my guest, she gestured toward Ilara, has plenty of water. She looks a bit dehydrated. Charlotte smiled that plastic smile. Of course, Ms. Cross. Sasha sank into the plush, cream leather seat, sighing with pure pleasure. This was her world, and Ilara was just a ghost haunting it. Ilara boarded moments later, silently stowing her small bag in the overhead compartment, a task Victor didn't even bother to observe, as he was already on his satellite phone, yelling again at someone named Smith. Ilara! Victor barked, muffling the phone. Sit there! He pointed to a single seat in the rear of the main cabin, near the galley and the lavatories. It was clearly the least desirable seat. Sasha watched, sipping her champagne. This was perfect. The wife banished to the back. Ilara, without a word of protest, walked to the back, sat down, and buckled up. A moment later, she pulled a worn, dog-eared paperback book from her bag. Pathetic, Sasha muttered to Victor, who had hung up his call. What's that, darling? He asked. Loosening his tie. Her, sitting back there like a servant. Why did you have to bring her? You said this was our trip. Victor sighed, his eyes hard. Shareholder business, Sasha. Annoying but necessary. There's a spousal retreat in St. Bart's I'm supposed to attend with her for one of my key investors. She's just paperwork, an accessory. The real trip, he said, kissing her neck, is with you. You're the one in the master suite. She's in the guest house, if she's lucky. This appeased Sasha. An accessory. She liked that. She was the star. Ilara was the background extra. The engines roared to life, and the G700 taxied down the runway with a powerful, smooth surge. Within minutes, they were airborne, soaring above the gray haze of New York. Once they reached cruising altitude, the performance began. Sasha was determined to make the next 5 hours as uncomfortable as possible for Ilara, and as gratifying as possible for herself. She laughed loudly at Victor's jokes. She fed him a chocolate-covered strawberry from the exquisite platter Charlotte served. She put her legs across his lap, whispering in his ear and kissing him deeply, all the while knowing Ilara was only a few rows back. She decided to take a series of selfies. She angled her phone, capturing the luxurious cabin, the champagne, and Victor's adoring gaze. In one shot, she deliberately tilted it to catch the background. There, just visible in the frame, was Ilara, a smudge of beige, engrossed in her book. Sasha wrote a caption for her private Instagram story, reserved for her closest frenemies. Finally off to paradise with my man. Had to bring the extra baggage, LOL. Some people just don't know when their time is up. Winning. First-class life. She hit send, feeling a rush of adrenaline. About an hour into the flight, Victor fell asleep, his head tilted back, snoring softly. The cabin went quiet, save for the hum of the engines. Sasha was bored. She unbuckled and decided to stretch her legs and pay the accessory a little visit. She sauntered toward the back of the plane, pretending to go to the lavatory. Ilara didn't look up from her book. Enjoying the flight? Sasha asked. Leaning on the bulkhead, Ilara finished her page, then slowly looked up. It's very smooth. Apex is the best, Sasha chirped. Victor, of course, only flies the best. He's one of their biggest clients. They treat him like royalty. We, she corrected herself, get everything we want. Ilara's gaze was unsettling. It wasn't fearful or angry. It was analytical, as if Sasha were an insect under a microscope. That must be very convenient for you, Ilara finally said. Oh, it is, Sasha purred. It's amazing what men will do for the women they are truly passionate about. All of this, she gestured around the cabin. This is what true love looks like. Not whatever you have. A piece of paper, a shared Christmas card list. It's also quaint. Sasha was trying to provoke her. A single tear, a tremor in her voice. Anything. Ilara simply marked her page. Are you insecure, Sasha? Sasha physically recoiled. What? I have everything. Look at me. Look at you. Who on this plane looks insecure? People who are secure don't need to announce that they're winning, Ilara said, her voice still quiet, but with a new, sharp edge that hadn't been on the tarmac. They simply win. You seem to be trying very hard to convince yourself of something. Sasha's face flushed with anger. You pathetic, dried-up relic! You think you're wise? You're a joke! You're a doormat! Victor is wiping his feet on you, and you're sitting there, reading a book. I am the future, Sasha hissed, losing her composure, her voice rising above the engine hum. I'm who he is building a life with. You're just the past he's too lazy to divorce. Victor, asleep in the front of the cabin, stirred. Sasha, what's going on back there? Sasha shot a look of pure hatred at Ilara, then regained her composure, strutting back to her seat. Nothing, darling. Just getting a drink. The guest was napping. She sat, fuming. The little beige mouse had claws. The audacity of her. Sasha stewed in her seat, her victory on the tarmac now feeling hollow. She needed to reassert her dominance, to prove to Alara and Victor who was truly in charge. And she knew exactly how to do it. 3. The final demand and the revelation. Over the next 2 hours, Sasha brooded. She drank 2 more glasses of champagne, the bubbles doing little to soothe the simmering indignation. She observed the cabin crew. There were 2 attendants in the main cabin, Charlotte and a younger man named Mark. They were ghosts in impeccable uniforms, efficient, polite, and invisible. But Sasha started noticing something, a subtle, almost imperceptible shift in their behavior. When Sasha had snapped her fingers for another glass, a habit she'd picked up, believing it made her look authoritative, Charlotte's smile had strained for a fraction of a second before complying. When Victor had tossed his used napkin onto the floor, Mark had picked it up with a smile. But their eyes were vacant. Their deference was professional, but it felt brittle, forced. Then Anakyo watched as Charlotte approached Alara's seat in the back. Sasha had to crane her neck to see. Charlotte leaned down, not with the efficient, brisk posture she used with Sasha, but with a genuine, soft incline. "Ms. H," Charlotte said, her voice too low for Sasha to catch the words, but the tone was entirely different. It was soft, respectful. Sasha saw Alara smile, a small, genuine smile, and nod, gesturing to her empty water glass. Charlotte returned a moment later, not with a standard plastic bottle, but with a tall glass of what looked like sparkling water and a slice of lime, served on a tiny linen-wrapped tray. Sasha's eyes narrowed. Ms. H? What kind of nickname was that? It sounded familiar and deferential. Not the compassionate kind of nickname you give the sad wife. It sounded like respect. Victor was back on the phone, his voice tight. "I don't care what the margin call is. Move the funds from the Singapore account. Just fix it, damn you." He looked stressed, with dark circles under his eyes that his tan couldn't hide. "Trouble in paradise, darling?" Sasha asked, running her foot up his leg. "Nothing for you to worry about, sweetheart," he said, stroking her knee distractedly. "Just market fluctuations." He no longer looked like the confident shark she had known. He looked desperate. Sasha decided to test a theory. She pressed the call button. Charlotte instantly appeared. "Yes, Ms. Cross? I've decided I want to celebrate. We're almost in St. Bart's." "Victor, darling," she cooed. "We should have a proper toast." Victor, who had just closed his laptop with a stressed sigh, looked grateful for the distraction. "Good idea, darling. Whatever you want." Sasha turned to Charlotte, a cunning, victorious smile on her face. "I want the 1998 Dom Perignon Rosé Gold. I know you have it. Victor has had it on this plane before." This was her checkmate. The 98 Rosé Gold was a legendary Omwe ultra-rare vintage, costing tens of thousands of pounds a bottle. To demand it was not a request. It was a statement of status. It was the kind of thing only a king like Victor could command. Charlotte's professional smile didn't just strain. It vanished. For a split second, she looked frightened. Then the mask returned. "The 1998 Dom Perignon Rosé Gold," Charlotte repeated slowly, as if engraving it into memory. "An excellent choice, Ms. Cross. Please wait one moment." She disappeared into the galley. A minute passed. Then 2. Sasha's smile began to fade. What was taking so long? Was she arguing with the pilot about it? Charlotte reappeared from the galley. She came back empty-handed. "Ms. Cross," Charlotte began, her voice a low, formal tone. "I'm afraid the 1998 Dom Perignon Rosé Gold is unavailable for service." Sasha's blood ran cold. Then it boiled. "Unavailable? What do you mean it's unavailable? I just told you, Victor has it all the time." My apologies, but that specific bottle is part of a private manifest. It is allocated. Allocated? Allocated to whom? Sasha demanded, her voice rising to a shriek. We are the only passengers. Are you telling me the pilots are drinking it? Victor, seeing his prize and his status slipping away, sat bolt upright. His industry titan voice returned. Now you listen here, Charlotte. I am paying over £100,000 for this flight. If my guest wants that champagne, she gets it. I don't care what manifest it's on. Go and get it. That is a command. Charlotte did not rush. She stood her ground, her hands clasped in front of her. Sir, she said, addressing Victor directly, her voice respectful but firm as iron. I cannot. That bottle was provided by special request of the owner. It is not part of the standard client cellar. It is from the owner's personal stock, and it is reserved. Sasha burst into a high, hysterical laugh. The owner? You think the owner is on this flight? Is he hiding in the cockpit? Victor looked furious. This is an outrage. I am Victor Thorne. I spend millions with this company. I am their owner for all intents and purposes. Who the hell on this plane is more important than me? Charlotte's gaze was steady. She did not blink. I am very sorry, Mr. Thorne, but my instructions are clear. The owner's private stock is unavailable. This is the worst service I have ever had, Sasha screamed, hitting the armrest. I am going to have you fired. I'm going to tell Victor to buy this entire pathetic airline and fire every single one of you. Sasha, shut up, Victor snapped, his face pale. He knew he'd been rebuffed, and it made him look weak. He turned back to Charlotte. This is unacceptable. Get me your manager. I am the chief flight coordinator, sir. There is no one else to speak to, Charlotte said. I can offer you our excellent 2000 Dom Perignon instead, and you can't have it. The voice wasn't Charlotte's. It was quiet. It was clear, and it came from the back of the plane. Sasha, Victor, and Charlotte spun around. Ilara Hayes had set her book down on her lap. She was looking at them, her expression no longer passive or analytical. It was one of mild annoyance, as if they were toddlers throwing a tantrum. What did you say? Sasha whispered, her throat suddenly dry. Ilara unbuckled her seatbelt. She stood up. And for the first time, Sasha noticed she wasn't disheveled. The cashmere she now saw was Loro Piana. The simple loafers were hand-stitched Brunello Cucinelli. The beige outfit likely cost more than Sasha's entire crimson ensemble. Ilara walked slowly down the aisle, her movements fluid and self-assured. She stopped beside Charlotte, standing shoulder to shoulder with the flight coordinator. She looked at Sasha, then at her husband. I said, Ilara repeated, her voice perfectly modulated. You can't have it. Because, as Charlotte correctly stated, it is mine. The silence in the cabin was absolute. Victor stared, his mouth slightly open. Ilara, what? What are you talking about? It's yours? Did you steal it from the galley? Sasha let out a choked sound, a cross between a laugh and a gasp. Oh my God! Are you a kleptomaniac? Now you're stealing champagne? This is a new low, even for you. Ilara simply raised an eyebrow. She did not look at Sasha. She didn't even look at Victor. She looked at Charlotte. Charlotte, Ilara said, her voice warm. You handled that beautifully, but I think you can stop referring to me as Ms. H now. It was a charming code, but I believe the game is over. Charlotte's icy professional mask melted, replaced by a look of deep, genuine respect. Yes, Mrs. Thorne. My apologies. I was only trying to maintain protocol as you requested. You did so perfectly, Ilara said. She then turned her steady, blue-eyed gaze onto her husband. Victor, she said, and the name sounded new on her tongue. It was not the whisper of a wife. It was the crisp, clear pronouncement of a CEO. You have been flying with Apex Air Charter for 3 years. You have spent, as you rightly pointed out, millions of pounds. And in all that time, You never bothered to ask what the A or the H stood for in our parent company, Hale Group Global. Victor's face was ashen. What? What are you talking about? H Group. That's Holdings. H Group Holdings. No, Victor, Elara said quietly. It is not. The H Group was founded by my mother, Helena. And Apex? That was my pet project. My father always loved the stars. The Apex is the highest point. I founded this airline 10 years ago, before I even met you, as a small tribute to him. She ran a hand over the polished walnut bulkhead. I designed this very interior. I chose the leather. I selected the woods. And I personally curate the owner's private wine list. She looked at Sasha, whose face had gone from crimson rage to waxy, chalky white. The 1998 Dom Perignon Rosé Gold, Elara said, was a gift from my father the day we secured our first G5. There is exactly one bottle on this plane, and I assure you, you will not be drinking it. Sasha slumped back in her seat, her entire body numb. No, that's not possible. You're into gardening clubs. Yes, Elara nodded. I am. I'm the director of the Kew Gardens Endowment Fund. I'm also a board member for the National Gallery. And I am the sole 100% owner of Apex Air Charter and its parent company, Hale Group Global, which, among other things, owns the building your office is in. Victor. Victor finally found his voice. It was a choked whisper. Elara, why? Why didn't I know? You always said you were just philanthropic. You never asked, Elara said, a deep, sorrowful sadness entering her voice for the first time. You met me at a charity ball. You saw my simple clothes. You saw my family's old name. And you assumed I was simply old money. You assumed I was a relic. A simple, quiet accessory you could use to look respectable. While you behaved like this. She gestured from Sasha to Victor. Victor stammered, his mind visibly racing, trying to recalculate decades of assumptions. Elara, darling, listen to me. This, he gestured wildly at Sasha. This is nothing. This is a mistake. A distraction. You're my wife. I love you. Sasha felt the last breath leave her lungs. She was the one being discarded. She was the extra baggage. Get off me, Victor, Elara said, pulling away from his grasping hands in revulsion. It's too late for that. It has been too late for a very long time. Did you really think I was so quiet? So simple? So disheveled? She was using Sasha's insults. I let you think that, Elara continued, her voice like ice. I let you think I was happily knitting and gardening while you played the big important man. It was a test of your character. And you have failed, Victor. Not only have you failed so spectacularly that you will be a case study in business schools for decades. She took another sip of her champagne. While you were buying Prada, she glanced at Sasha's dress, and leveraging company assets for your little affair, I was moving quietly. Every asset you thought you had access to was systematically ring-fenced. The accounts you've been draining? They were decoys I set up 6 months ago, filled with enough money to keep you busy and provide a very clear, damning paper trail of embezzlement for the serious fraud office. NFO. The real money, my father's money, my mother's money, has been in a blind trust since the day we married. A trust, I might add, to which you have no legal claim, especially not after, well, all this. Victor had stumbled back into his seat. He was breathing heavily. You set a trap for me. No, Elara said. You built the cage, Victor. I just let you lock yourself inside. Suddenly, Sasha, in a fit of pure, unadulterated panic, realized her own position. Her billionaire boyfriend was not only not a billionaire, he was ruined. He was a criminal. And she had just spent 5 hours insulting the actual billionaire. "Wait! Wait!" Sasha shrieked, standing up. This isn't my fault. He told me you were a nobody. He lied to me. I'm a victim here too." She looked at Alara, eyes wide with desperation. "Please, I didn't know. You're incredible. What you did, it's genius. We should be friends." Alara looked at Sasha, and for the first time, Sasha saw what she had mistaken for tranquility and beige. It wasn't weakness. It was stillness, a deep, cold, absolute power. "Friends," Alara replied, a small, joyless smile touching her lips. "I think not. You are not a victim, Sasha. You are a co-conspirator. You knew he was a married man. You joyfully participated in his humiliation of me. You drank his champagne, wore his clothes, and sat on my plane, insulting me. You didn't care if it was right or wrong. You only cared that you were winning. And now you've lost." The intercom crackled. It was Charlotte's voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are beginning our initial descent. However, there has been a change to our flight plan. We will not be landing in St. Bart's. We will be landing at Teterboro Airport, New Jersey. We will be on the ground in approximately 20 minutes. Sasha's head snapped to the window. The endless blue of the ocean was gone. Beneath them, shrouded in evening haze, was the distinctive coastline of Long Island Sound. They weren't in the Caribbean. They had simply flown a big, pointless circle. "What? New York?" Sasha shrieked. "We flew back to New York. We didn't go anywhere." "Oh, we went somewhere," Alara said, walking back to her seat, her original seat in the back. "We flew over international waters, far enough for my legal team to file the injunctions, freeze your accounts, and remove you from the company board without you being able to interfere. And now, we're home." Victor was rocking back and forth, muttering to himself. "My office, the building, oh God, the funds. Smith, I have to call Smith." He fumbled for his satellite phone. "I wouldn't bother," Alara called from the back. "Mr. Smith has been cooperating with my forensic accounting team for 3 weeks. He's the one who gave us the final piece of evidence. He's probably signing a witness protection agreement as we speak." Victor's hand froze. He looked at the phone in his hand as if it were a snake. His entire world, his empire, his mistress, his wife. It had all been an illusion orchestrated by the one person he had never, ever taken seriously. 4. The meaningful ending. The final humiliation. The descent was heavy with silence, thicker than the clouds they passed through. The luxurious cabin, so recently the stage for Sasha's triumph, had become a soundproof tomb. The Gulfstream G700 touched down on the Teterboro runway with a barely perceptible bump. The landing was, as always, incredibly smooth, but the bump of the wheels on the tarmac felt like a final judgment. The plane taxied not to the elegant private terminal, but to a remote, isolated corner of the airfield. The engine shut down. The sudden, enveloping silence was louder than any of Victor's ravings. "Thank you for flying with Apex Air Charter." Charlotte's voice came over the intercom, her tone, once again, bright and professional. "Local time is 4:52 p.m. Please remain seated until the cabin door is opened." In the back, Alara placed her bookmark in her book and closed it. She stood up, smoothing her Loro Piana jacket, her movements unhurried. The cabin door hissed open. The cold, damp air of a New Jersey autumn evening rushed in. It revealed not a red carpet, but a set of metal stairs, the gray tarmac, and 2 men in dark, conservative suits. They looked like lawyers, or perhaps something more. Standing a few feet behind them was a uniformed officer of the Port Authority Police. Alara walked to the front of the plane. She passed Victor's seat. He didn't look up. She paused at Sasha's row. Sasha looked up, her face a ruin. Her perfectly applied makeup was now a tear-streaked mess. Her crimson dress felt cheap and loud. "What? What's going to happen to me?" Sasha whispered, the words catching in her dry throat. Ilara looked at her. Her expression was not one of anger or even triumph. It was of cold, detached pity, the look one might give a particularly foolish insect. "That, Sasha, is no longer my concern," Ilara said, her voice quiet, but with absolute finality. "You saw this as a game of winning, and you hitched yourself to the man you thought was the winner. My advice, for what it's worth, next time you should have brought your own parachute." She then addressed Victor. "Victor." He flinched, a small, pathetic motion. "My lawyers will notify you at... well, I suppose they will notify you at the police station. They will be processing the divorce and the criminal complaint for embezzlement and wire fraud. I have been advised for legal reasons not to speak to you again. Goodbye." Ilara turned and walked toward the open door, an image of tranquil control. She nodded to the men in suits, who parted for her like the sea. "Ms. H," one of them said, his voice low and respectful. "The car is ready." "Thank you, Robert," she replied. She descended the steps, her sensible loafers making a soft, firm sound on the metal. She never looked back. A black Mercedes S-Class, discreet, a car that whispered power rather than yelling for attention, pulled up. Robert opened the door for her. She got in, and the car drove away, disappearing around the side of a hangar. Back on the plane, the two men in suits ascended, their large bodies filling the threshold, blocking the light. The uniformed officer remained at the foot of the stairs. "Mr. Victor Thorne?" the taller one asked. It was not a question. Victor only nodded, a broken man, his head sinking onto his chest. "You need to come with us. We have a warrant for your arrest for multiple counts of wire fraud and embezzlement." Victor got to his feet, but he seemed to be moving through water. He was stumbling, his legs weak. The officer climbed into the cabin, holding a pair of handcuffs. Sasha watched, frozen, as the officer motioned for Victor to turn around. The man she had called her Titan, her king, the shark she had so admired, put his hands behind his back without a word. The sharp metallic click, click, click of the cuffs closing was the only sound. He was led down the aisle, his expensive Zegna suit now hopelessly wrinkled, his head bowed in utter defeat. Sasha was left alone in the cabin with Charlotte. Charlotte began to walk through the cabin, collecting the empty champagne glasses, her expression perfectly neutral. "Well," Sasha said, her voice trembling as she tried to muster a final scrap of dignity. "I guess I'll just call an Uber." She reached for her phone, a desperate attempt to grasp her last connection to the world. Charlotte paused her collection and looked at her. Her professional smile was gone, and her eyes were as cold and gray as the tarmac outside. "I'm afraid not, Ms. Cross," Charlotte said, her voice stripped of all pretense of service. "Your name was on the flight manifest as a guest of Mr. Thorne, and since he has just been arrested, and his account with Apex Air Charter is permanently closed, effective immediately, you are now considered an unauthorized passenger." An unauthorized passenger," Sasha repeated, the words feeling like a slap. "But I have to go home. You can't just leave me here." "I'm sure you do, Miss Cross," Charlotte said, "but you will not be exiting via the private terminal. That access is reserved for our clients. You will be escorted by airport security through the main TSA checkpoint. From there, you are on your own." Charlotte pointed to the open door, where a different, disgruntled-looking airport security guard was now waiting. Expulsion. This was the final humiliation. Not only was she being kicked off the plane, she was being kicked out of the world she had tried so hard to infiltrate. Sasha walked, head bowed, out of the aircraft, the cold air hitting her face. Her phone vibrated in her hand. It was an alert from her Instagram. The story she had posted hours ago, the one of her and Victor, the one that called Alara extra baggage, was suddenly, inexplicably, swamped with comments. Her world had ended, not with a bang, but with the quiet, satisfied click of a car door as the quiet wife drove away. Alara proved that true power doesn't need to be loud. She drove away with her dignity, her company, and her freedom, while Sasha and Victor were left only with the consequences of their own actions. V. Conclusion and morale. What did you think of Alara's ultimate power move? Have you ever seen karma delivered so perfectly? Tell us your take in the comments. If you loved this story of justice and unexpected twists, please hit the like button. Share this video with someone who needs to see it. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more real-life drama every week. We appreciate your support. The Aftershocks and the Final Price. The Aftershocks and the Alara Standard, 3 years later. 3 years had passed since the Gulfstream GRP landed at Teterboro Airport. For Victor Thorne, the fallout was complete and brutal. He was convicted of multiple fraud and embezzlement charges stemming directly from the paper trail Alara had meticulously prepared. His expensive Zegna suit was replaced by prison standard issue. He lost the Manhattan penthouse, the sports car, and every asset he had leveraged for his facade of success. Hale Group Global's civil suit ensured he was left with nothing but his debt. Alara's focus, however, was forward. She never attended the trial. She had already moved past Victor. Her commitment was to the firm she had rescued. At Apex Air Charter, the quiet revolution was complete. Alara personally promoted Charlotte, the chief flight coordinator, to director of global service integrity, and Mark, the flight attendant, to head of training. Their loyalty and integrity under pressure became the company standard. The culture shifted from servicing the loudest, most arrogant clients to prioritizing professionalism and ethical conduct, a stark contrast to the values Victor represented. "We don't sell luxury, we sell certainty," Alara stated in her first company-wide address. "We do not tolerate clients who abuse our staff or compromise our integrity. If a client mistakes our service for servitude, they will be liquidated." This became known in the industry as the Alara Standard, a brutal but effective mandate that quickly made Apex Air Charter the most respected, and paradoxically, even more exclusive service in the world. Clients understood. You had to behave. Alara herself spent her time chairing the Kew Gardens Endowment and quietly funding STEM programs for young women in engineering. Her personal fortune was untouched, and her identity was secure. She had weaponized her intelligence and then used the resulting power to build a better system. The final reflection, 5 years later. 5 years after being ejected from the private terminal, Sasha Cross sat in a small, windowless office at a high-street travel agency in a mid-level London suburb. The crimson Prada was long gone, replaced by a polyester uniform. Her job was booking economy flights and packages to the Canary Islands, a cruel, constant reminder of the paradise she had almost touched. She was no longer the dazzling, arrogant predator. Her humiliation had been complete. The Instagram story, the viral nature of the downfall, had instantly blacklisted her from the luxury sector. She was forced to take an honest job, one that paid just enough for her tiny flat and basic necessities. One dreary Wednesday afternoon, she took a phone call. "Thank you for calling Skyjet Travel. My name is Sarah. How may I help you?" "Yes, I need to charter a private jet." The voice on the line was precise, expensive, and familiar. "I require a heavy-lift jet for immediate transfer from London City to Geneva. I've heard the service from Apex Air Charter is unmatched." Sasha froze. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Apex Air Charter. Apex. Yes, sir, Sasha stammered, her voice thin. They are highly exclusive. I would need to check their manifest and client requirements. They are known for vetting clients quite rigorously. I am aware, the client said, a hint of impatience in his voice. The account name is Hale Group Global. You may check the owner's credentials. Sasha gripped her pen so tightly the plastic cracked. She pulled up the Apex Air Charter portal, a system she despised, but had to use. She clicked the executive account verification. She saw the familiar corporate logo and the name of the primary contact, Ilara Hayes. She looked at the screen, then at her own trembling hand. 5 years. She had spent 5 years blaming Victor, blaming the universe, blaming her bad luck. But in this moment, seeing Ilara's name next to the company she had built, Sasha finally saw the truth with terrifying clarity. Ilara hadn't just defeated her and Victor. Ilara had given Sasha exactly what she deserved. A small, honest life defined by competency, not complicity. Sasha closed her eyes for a brief moment. She processed the charter request clinically, her professionalism overriding her shame. She secured the client the jet, quoted the price, and completed the booking flawlessly. Your Apex Air Charter flight is confirmed, sir, Sasha concluded, her voice steady. Thank you for choosing Skyjet Travel. She hung up the phone. She looked at the image of the Apex logo on her screen, the emblem of the true queen. There was no anger left, only a cold, profound understanding. She wasn't small, Sasha whispered to the empty office. I was just looking at the wrong numbers. Her world hadn't crumbled because she chose the wrong man. Her world crumbled because she mistook quiet intelligence for insignificance, the costliest calculation error of her life. She picked up the phone, ready for the next call, a successful, if sober, saleswoman in a world she no longer hated, because she finally understood how to earn her place in it.